What's up, holiday nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the 9th day of December 2022. It's looks like about 64 degrees and sunny here at Site B, but we do have a storm warning coming up starting tonight, so that's something to look forward to, I guess. We have some more news regarding the conference call yesterday from our friends over at Hasbro, between Hasbro CEO and Wizards of the Coast CEO, and their plans for the next 5 years for D&D and Magic. And again, it does seem to be the main point is the monetization of Dungeons and Dragons as a brand. But first, this is speaking of monetized, a monetized video, which means that they may jump up and pop up at some point in time while I'm talking. So if you don't like ads in your YouTubes, you could probably stop watching now. I figure I should at least let you know. Okay, so first, Magic the Gathering news, because I don't want people to think that everything that Hasbro does is all guns and roses and I only have nice things to say about Hasbro, simply because I hold 10 shares of stock, which are currently worth $50 each. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. In regards to the recent Magic the Gathering news, Hasbro is holding still on that one. Despite the huge loss, Hasbro is claiming they don't feel that Magic the Gathering glutted the market, and they don't feel the mistakes were as bad as people are saying. Now notice this is Hasbro saying this. Once again, let me say Hasbro is saying in regards to the multiple accusations of mishandling of Magic the Gathering over the past couple of years, especially this year, and how Wizards of the Coast is handling. Hasbro has stepped up and said, well, we don't think it's that bad. Not Wizards of the Coast. Hasbro has said, we don't think it's that bad. Now, a lot of people will say, fuck you, screw you, Hasbro. I can't say bad words anymore now that I'm monetized. You did mess it up, and Magic is a mess. Other people will say, it's very interesting that Hasbro is taking the claims, not Wizards of the Coast. Why would they do this? Is this some form of damage control to get Wizards of the Coast out of the clear? Do they actually feel that even though they lost $60 million, that what they did with Magic this year is okay? Or are they simply deflecting while they reconsider what they're going to do with Magic in 2023? I don't know. I think it was unusual that Hasbro stepped up and they're like, hey, we don't think it's that bad, guys. Chill out. As opposed to Wizards of the Coast stepping up and going, we're sorry. So, yeah, not everything that Hasbro does is guns and roses and wonderful. Look, Steve, just so you know that. Sometimes they do say things that I'm like, wait, what? Accept the blame and move on, guys. In regards to D&D, yeah, pretty much. Monetization of the Dungeons & Dragons brand is the plan for 2023 through 2027. Hasbro thinks that they need a recurrent spending environment around the popular tabletop RPG's digital front. Hasbro feels that Dungeons & Dragons needs a reoccurring spending environment around the popular tabletop's RPG digital front. So again, to all your naysayers out there who are like, oh no, they're not going to do, digital. It's still going to be physical. No. Hasbro is repeatedly pounding this fact into our head. It's going to be digital, and they want the digital format to be able to be a monetized IP. Well, what does this mean in English, Hasbro? All right. So what this means, if you're familiar with online markets, like pubs, is it pubs? Pugs? P-U-B-S? Pubs? Fortnite, Diablo, Path of Exile, where there is an online marketplace where you can spend real life money to get digital things. Now, I played Path of Exile for about 2 years, so I'm kind of familiar. Every new season, you would get a whole bunch of new things that you could go to the digital store to buy to tweak your character. You could get hats, cloaks, pets, special effects for your spells. You could change the way your character looked. You could get cool things in your base, stuff like that. You could have sets. None of these affected play in any way, shape, or form. They were all cosmetics. And you could just spend real world money to get these cosmetics. This is not a new thing. The idea of loot crates go way, way back, where people could buy these digital cosmetics for their characters. They could also like purchase random crates and get them. It was accused of being a form of gambling, but the video games that have used this have been able to squeak through barely it's not technically gambling because there's no real exchange. People are just paying money to make their imaginary character look different. This is something Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro want to do in the future of digital D&D. In regards to D&D Beyond, they're gonna have you have the ability to have a D&D Beyond digital marketplace to make the way your character looks and stuff like that, and on D&D Beyond different. In regards to upcoming digital D&D video games and the D&D virtual tabletop that was mentioned at Comic-Con and we haven't seen anything from since. At least I haven't. Has anybody seen anything from the supposed D&D VTT that Wizards is supposedly working for, that they hired 300 people for to work on? I'm not. And where are these 300 people? Anyway, so when that actually becomes a thing, your virtual tabletop character will appear as just sort of a general humanoid figure. 2 arms, 2 legs, whatever. You'll have some control over, I guess, the way the face works. And, a simple video is something we've seen in hundreds of video games where you can personalize your character. But then there will be a digital marketplace. So if, for example, you want your character to have a pirate hat because your character in the game found a pirate hat, well, you can get that pirate hat from the digital marketplace, but it'll cost real life money. And going forward in all the other digital video games, books, everything that they're doing, they want to reinforce this ability to monetization of the digital format. So any further future anything digital that's going to have D&D attached to it, Hasbro is trying to figure out ways to digitally monetize that. But don't worry, for those of us who can't understand the world of video games and prefer physical content, this kind of stuff will still be available and will be heavily focused monetizing. Starting with, there's a movie coming out in 2023 in March. What ties in with movies? Action figures, toys, Nerf weapons, jigsaw puzzles, board games, books, coloring books, themed dice. Now, I've seen the action figures, and hopefully they're going to change them because they just look not that great. But the monster figures look great, so I guess that's a saving grace. And the gelatinous cube looks great. But we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more and more of Hasbro stuff tagged on to D&D. So more, for lack of a better term, toys. More monetization, both digitally and physically. Being monetized. So that's the latest round of news from our friends at Wizards of the Coast in regards to the conference call we had yesterday and the future plans for D&D, D&D Beyond, 1 D&D, the D&D video game, the D&D movie, D&D at your friendly local Target, etc., etc., etc. Monetization is the key. If this is a concern about people going forward and the digitization of Dungeons & Dragons and the focus on D&D Beyond and the focus on the upcoming VTT and video games, it's a thing. And if that's something you're not cool with, the best way to do is let Wizards of the Coast know, or start turning your attention to other games, because the predictions are people are not going to respond kindly to this. It may cause more people to leave Dungeons and Dragons than it will people to join D&D. If we could turn back the Wayback Machine to 2014, 2013, when similar situations happened with 4th edition, Wizards of the Coast did a lot of things that a lot of people are still angry about till today, and the response was not what they thought. In fact, it was a mass exodus over to the rival company, making a little upstart game called Pathfinder for a short period of time the number one tabletop role-playing game there was, because people were just so divided on 4th edition. So could one D&D be the new 4th edition? Well, for somebody who remembers everything that Wizards of the Coast did with 4th, it's looking more and more like their history is repeating itself. Now, to piggyback this on the other subject, which I said I was never going to talk about anymore, with the race versus species thing, this all spirals back to my ongoing theory that at some place in the multiverse, this makes sense, but they're doing it the wrong way. And they're doing it in such a way that instead of uniting the customers, they will continue to alienate the customers. This is what happened with 4th. This is what happened from 4th going forward. This is what happened with 3.5. Wizards of the Coast comes up with these ideas, which hypothetically look good on paper, but when those ideas are actually played out in the real world, they end up being disasters. And I have a feeling that while the idea of digital monetizing and physical product monetizing and toy monetizing is a good idea on paper, when we actually see it played out, it will be a disaster. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe this is something people want. Maybe everybody is like, oh yes, I cannot wait for this whole new digital empire of Wizards of the Coast product. I'm so excited about the ability to be able to spend $30 to get a digital pirate hat on my digital character in this digital game. I mean, I don't know. Are you? Is this something people want? I don't want it, but maybe there are people who do. I mean, I am usually wrong about these, though lately, sadly, I've been more right than wrong. So, anyways, yes, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro wants to create a reoccurring spending environment around the popular tabletop RPG's digital front going forward between 2023 and 2027. This, of course, could change. Anyways, that's about it. If you appreciate this nonsense that comes out of my mouth, let me know. If there's other topics you'd rather hear me talk about, let me know. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please subscribe. Help support the OGGM adventures going forward into 2023. If you're looking for Christmas gifts for the gamer in your life, check out my merch. I got t-shirts, I got stickers, I got published product on Big Geek Emporium. I'm trying to figure out how Lulu works so I can publish on there too, but that place is really confusing and it's going to require a lot of work on my part. And I'm lazy. So yeah, happy holidays, happy Friday. Talk to you later. Oh, Wizards of the Coast, you silly sausage.